Yes, sir. Stay swole Saturday. Another very beautiful day. It's a beautiful day to be alive. Another day, another dollar. Thank the Lord for another 24. I'm just getting back home from that gym. We got a good workout, leg workout in the day at the gym. Good money. Came home, made some breakfast. I said I was about to record this video, right? But before I cut the camera on, I was going through my comments, responding to a few comments, bro. And one particular comment, it really stood out to me, right? Brother left a message on one of my other corrections videos, right? And it really touched me. It really got me extra motivated right now to do this video because I was going to talk about that topic anyways, working in corrections, mental health, your well-being is all critical, right? You can't be a successful correctional officer and work in this field if you let the job consume you. Working in corrections, right? It will reshape you. It's going to remold you, your way of thinking, how you view society, but you can't let it consume you, bro. If you let it consume you, it's going to swallow you up, chew you up, and spit you out, leave you on the side of the road in the ocean like a dead piece of carcass, bro. You know what I'm saying? You're going to see a lot of stuff working in this field. I told y'all, in some of my other videos, I was only 4 months on the job, 20, going on 21 years old. I found a person that had committed suicide. I don't know how y'all may react to it, but it really bothered me, for a couple of weeks. Luckily, I was able to stick it out with this career, but I almost thought about quitting. I'm not even going to lie. When I seen that body flop out, he tied the shoestring around his neck and he was dead. He was gone. You know what I'm saying? I panicked. I ran, I thought about it for a while. I was like, man, I'm about to graduate college. I got my whole life ahead of me. You know what I'm saying? Do I really want to do this job? And I really did some deep, long soul searching, and I was like, you know what, man? That just comes with it. People, things are going to happen. There's nothing you could do sometimes. When somebody wants to go, that somebody gets that low in life, no matter what you do, it's just some things you can't do to help that person. The dude that committed suicide, he was on suicide watch like a few days before that. The psychologists, they have to evaluate the inmate, right, and make sure that they're suitable to be taken off watch. So she evaluated him. He checked off everything. Boom, she put him back in the PC population, and a couple days later, he ended up doing it. He happened to be on my shift. I was working that unit on night shift. I remember it like it was yesterday. This happened back, 2011. You know what I'm saying? But I kept going. Bro. So like I said, you can't let this job, this field, don't let it consume you. Always remember this. Y'all remember anything I'm telling you in this video, always remember this. It's just a job at the end of the day. You got a life outside of corrections. You got people, family, your loved ones, your wife, husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, kids, parents, uncles, cousins, aunts, bro, friends. They love you. They loved you before you started corrections, and they're going to love you after you retire or however long you want to work in this field. You always got to remember that you have a life outside of corrections. You're not just a correctional officer 24/7, bro. That's why I try to tell y'all it's so important to have a life outside of work. You know what I'm saying? And if you ain't figured out, what type of activities you want to do, things that make you happy, you know what I'm saying? You got a lot of great examples, right? You could think back when we had COVID. COVID, everybody was in the house. Some of us didn't even have no job, so we was in the house 24/7, lockdown. What were some of the things that you enjoyed doing then? Maybe you like going to the park. You found more time. You got more time now to go to the park, start walking and getting out in nature. Maybe you like to play video games. Somebody asked me my thoughts on somebody that's 30 years and over playing video games. Do I feel like they should play? I'm like, bro, as long as you productive, you taking care of what you need to do. If you like to play video games in your spare time, go for it, bro. Go for it, bro. Who's to tell you not to play video games? I personally haven't played video games, since college. I had got a PS4 maybe 5-6 years ago, thinking I was going to be in here, when I had some free time playing. I used to love playing Call of Duty. And my roommate, when I was in college, he had college, the one with Reggie Bush on the college football. I used to love playing Call of Duty, but I got the game and I never played it. I was just busy, bro. I just had too much going on for me to be playing video games. But I don't never judge nobody, bro. Now, if you in the crib and you ain't got no job, You know what I'm saying? You ain't making a conscious effort to improve your life, better yourself, and you just playing the video game to 5 in the morning. Now, I feel like now you got a problem. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. But like I say, man, whatever it is you like to do that makes you happy, it brings joy to your heart, because we only going to be down here for so long. You only get one chance at this thing we call life. You know, y'all know me. I'm big into the gym. You know, I'm about to go. We're going to probably go out to eat again later on. I like to go out to eat. You know, I just like to do the simple stuff. You know, you ain't got to have a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? You ain't got to be rich and famous to find something that makes you happy. A lot of the simple pleasures in life are little to no money. Like I said, going to the gym membership ain't but $30. You know, going out to eat maybe once a week. Even when I didn't have a lot of money, you know, I still like to go out to eat. It might not have been filet mignon or, you know what I'm saying, running up a tab. But, hey, if I got some Chinese food, went to the Chinese buffet, or ordered some pizza, rented a movie out the red box and put the movie on, you know what I'm saying, came back to the apartment, you know, back when I ain't have as much money, I'm going to always do what makes me happy. And I want y'all to do the same thing. I want you to do the same thing, bro. You know, when you in there, you clocked in doing your shift, working behind that wall, you got to have your game face on. You got to be on your P's and Q's. But when it's time for you to get relieved, your relief show up, you walk out that Sally port, you got to know how to shut it off. Shut it off. Even when you have a bad day, yeah, you might be mad at the moment. Yeah, the inmate may have did something or said something that pissed you off. Maybe you got into it with a co-worker, had some smoke with them. But when you go home, bro, don't take that shit home with you. Don't go home, bro. You done cussed the wife out. You done kicked the dog across the room. You done grabbed you a 12-pack of beer out the fridge and slammed the door, went back out into the car, about to crush this beer, start riding around, thinking evil, demented thoughts and shit like that, how you hate this job, bro. Don't be like that, bro. Don't be like that. It's not worth it. Like I said, it's just a job. It's just a way we put food on our table, bro. And it's not for everybody. I try to always stress that when I'm making these videos. You know, I get comments, people, you know, they want to know why I'm always pushing correction so hard. Why would you tell somebody to work in correct? That's what I've been doing. You know, that's what I've been doing personally. 14 years now, you know, so of course I'm going to, you know, mention these careers to people that's interested, or, you know, they're trying to find a job. They might be out of college, don't got no work. You know, they might have just lost their job. So if I could put that bug in here, hey, you know, correction, it's been working out for me. You know, I've made a good life. You know, yes, it has its moments, but what job don't got its moment? Every job has its ups and its downs. You know, I try to be, you know, transparent with y'all when I come on and do these videos. I don't try to sugarcoat nothing. You know, I told y'all in the beginning, you can expect anything to happen, bro. You can go in there your first day, an inmate try to attack you or assault you. You can see an inmate get stabbed. You know what I'm saying? You're going to have to work the weekends, the holidays sometimes. You know, man, you're going to get forced to work overtime when you think you was going home. That just comes with it. That's why I try to always explain that to people that's going through the process, so you know what you getting yourself into, what you signed yourself up for. You know what I'm saying? And you got to remember this right here, right? You know, prison, it's going to be prison at the end of the day, bro. No matter how hard you try, it's stuff that's always going to go down, bro. You're going to have inmates that get high. You're going to have inmates fighting. You're going to have inmates trying to manipulate you, trying to get contraband introduced into the prison, trying to plot their escape. You know, inmates, they become unpredictable. They might lash out, attack a staff member, stuff like that. Mental health inmates start tripping out. You know what I'm saying? Then you got the work politics that come with it sometimes. You got the good old boy club. You know, the supervisors may have their favorites, they butt buddies, so they pick them for all the good posts and stuff in the prison and put you on all the less desired posts. You know, you got to take everything that comes with it, bro. You got to have this sharp. You got to have a sharp mind. You know, I'm like this. No matter what happens, what goes down, bro, I know who I am as a man. I know it's just a job. At the end of the day, I get to go home and live my life, bro. I'm not finna be stressed out 24/7. You know, if it got to that point where I'm stressed constantly about the job, I'm in a negative, depressed state, I'll just quit. I'll just quit, man, and go find something else to do. You know what I'm saying? Luckily, thankfully, it hasn't gotten to that point. Knock on wood. Hopefully it never does ever get to that point. But if that was the case, man, because like I said, I only got one life to live, bro. I don't want to constantly be out here moping around, mad at people, just in a depressed deep, you know what I'm saying? It's just wasted motion, bro. And it ain't gonna do nothing but shorten my lifespan. That's why it's that stigma that correctional officers got a short lifespan anyway. I think it's because of that, bro. To be realistic with y'all, because of stuff that we face on a daily basis, the constantly having to be on your P's and Q's. But like I said, when you learn how to turn it off, you learn how to put stuff behind you, and learn that it's a new day when you go in there the next day, and learn how to set boundaries, bro. That's important. Set them boundaries, bro. Like I said, don't take work home with you. When I'm out, I used to go to the co-worker events and functions, the holiday parties. I stopped going because some people, they would just be in there and it's like we at a party and they want to keep talking about work. I'm like, bro, I want to eat good, maybe have some drinks if they got drinks in there, listen to some music. I don't want to be talking about work. I don't even be thinking about work, unless I'm doing these videos. When I'm not at work, I don't even be thinking about work. I'll get it. It's not going to burn down. The prison, the jail you work at, it's not going to burn down if you ain't got it in your mind 24/7. It's going to be all right. Trust that your coworkers that's working when you off, you're not there, they're going to do a good job. They're going to make sure the facility's working and running in a safe, smooth manner. Everything's going good. Like I said, y'all know stuff happens. Prison's going to be prison. There's nothing we could do about it. All we could do is address it, respond to whatever happens and move forward. That's the thing right here, bro. And this the thing right here too, right? I see a lot of people, they complain about the job. They complain about the administration, the big wigs always changing stuff. That's a part of life. That's a part of life. One thing that's constant in life is change. It's always changes. Changes in the procedure, changes in the policy. You got to look at the bigger picture. You may feel like, why did they do that? Why did they change this up? They made some changes at the prison I'm at here recently. They made it to where we can't do comp swaps. Officers, we can't, sometimes officers, they'll make it to where they might work somebody else's shift and that officer will work their shift so they can have more days off. We only get 2 days off every week, right? So some officers, they got it set up, they get 3-4 days. As long as it's working, you know what I'm saying? Long as everybody, is accounted for, they got enough officers to run the shift, I have no problem with it. But they made it recently, right, to where they can't do that because we're short on staff. I understand. I get that you might be mad. You like, damn, they always change the stuff up. You got to look at the bigger picture, right? People at the top, the administration, they trying to do what they feel is best for everybody. I don't try to stress myself out, worry myself to death with what they have to do, the decisions that they have to make. I trust that they making a conscious effort and decision, to make the working conditions for all of the staff members in there, as good as possible. You know what I'm saying? I don't ever question it. Sometimes you might get mad in the moment, but like any other change that they've made over the years, I've been at 3 different facilities, right? They've made so many changes or introduced so many policies, and you might be looking like scratching your head like, why do they do that? But out of all those changes, bro, all of them, we were able to adapt and keep going. You got to be able to adapt and keep going at the end of the day. You can't control stuff that's outside your control. Don't let it stress you out. I don't let stuff I can't control stress me out. Stuff they changing in the prisons. I can't control what inmates are on my unit. I can't control none of that, bro. All I can do is do the job to the best of my ability, keep going, follow the policy procedures, and live my life outside of work, bro. Live your life. Don't let this shit stress you out, bro. Look at the job. Most of the stuff we do working in correction, it's nothing hard about the job. I'm just being realistic with you. Nothing. Most of the time when I'm in there, is you just sitting there. You just sitting in the office, observing the inmates. You walk around, nothing going on. Go sit back down. It's like you turning keys. That's it, bro. It's nothing strenuous. You ain't outside in the elements. 100 degrees. You out there shoveling, standing with a sign. You out in negative temperatures in the wintertime. Shoveling snow. You sitting down a lot. times when you're working in correction, there's nothing hard about the job. Some people, you know, they even make it harder than what it has to be. Some people let it get to them, bro. You can't let this get to you, bro. Don't let it get to you, man. Don't let it stress you out. Y'all like this video, though, make sure you subscribe to my channel at the Ghetto Bodybuilder. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok at the Ghetto Bodybuilder. I got the merch for sale. This is one of my gym shirts. If you're reading this, I'm at the gym. Y'all know I just left that gym, bro. Big into that fitness, bro. We got a lot of hoodies, t-shirts for sale up on the website. Y'all got any input, thoughts, comments on this video? Make sure y'all drop a comment. I'll be sure to get back with you as soon as I can. Y'all know how we coming. Let's get motivated. Boom!